Hello everyone, and welcome to the Living with Lupus documentary, brought to you by the Lupus Hub. Lupus is notorious for its elusive qualities. I call it the known unknown. Some have heard of lupus, fewer know what it is, and those that live with it find it harder to explain. What is known about lupus is often filtered through a negative lens. And we lupus warriors know it can have devastating effects on those who live with it. However, the Lupus Hub believe that it is imperative for those that are diagnosed with lupus to find the positives. So we have gathered 5 wonderful lupus warriors to tell their own real, powerful stories of how they are living with lupus. Enjoy.
Testing.
Hello, Taylor.
Hi.
Hello, Blossom.
Oh, hello.
The first question is, what were the initial symptoms that presented themselves? This is what they had to say.
Okay, well, from what I can remember, because what comes with lupus comes with memory loss too, so they say. But it was a lot of, I lost a bit of weight, and I did lose a bit of hair as well, but I didn't actually notice it at the time. It's only when I look back at pictures and I say, wow, like I really did lose like so much. And I was tired a lot. That was one of the main things I was really, really tired. And I did start to notice my mood as well changing. So I did go to the doctors and express that I'm always tired. And I did notice a bit of weight loss, and they done some blood tests and then noticed that my thyroxine levels was that's what they were concerned about, and they done a few tests and done a scan of my throat and noticed there was a shadow, and I had to get my thyroid glands removed because it was a serious the lump was serious that they found, so I had to get that removed. And then I had to be on thyroxine tablets as a replacement. So they said that it's going to take a while to kick in and for my body to adjust. So I still might experience tiredness, and my weight should start coming back on again once it's in my system. But as I noticed as time was going on, I still saw that I was losing weight. My hair was still thinning out, and I was still constantly tired. And then I started to start feeling like a bit of joint pain as well. I suffered from bad periods as well, so they were kind of relating that it's because of that. So I went back to the doctors. They still just basically just said it is to do with my thyroxine levels. I need to be taking it. It's not in my system enough. So I went back home, and then just one day I was at home and I actually fainted, and I had to call the ambulance and I got rushed to hospital. And it was then when I got to the hospital to find out why I fainted, they saw that I had, they reckoned that I've got lupus, because I noticed that my kidney levels, there was a problem with my kidneys, and that's when I got diagnosed with lupus.
So I was getting a lot of skin issues. So I got little butterfly rashes. I got really dry skin, and also the thing that broke the camel's back. Basically, I lost all of my hair. It literally all just fell out, and then that's when I find the doctors were telling me that there was nothing wrong with me, basically. But then when all of my hair fell out, that's when they actually decided to refer me to the hospital, because before that they were just brushing me off, basically.
So I had all of these rashes that came up on my legs first and foremost, and it kind of looked like thick heat bumps, but they weren't red. Only when I was itching them they became red. So they came up first of all like all over my legs and my arms, and it kind of like looked like I don't know, like a reptile skin. And it was very irritable and very hot. So that was like the first initial symptoms that I had. And then I started to get rashes inside my hands and then on my face, around my cheeks and around my nose.
Tiredness, fatigue. I mean, bad fatigue. Couldn't explain it. And just feeling unwell. Couldn't describe it, but yeah. So that was the first thing, the fatigue. Yeah, and then things start to appear like rashes and on my face, mainly my body and stuff like that. Yeah.
Ooh. First symptoms was pain. So my journey started, I had a fall down a flight of stairs, and I had one sort of swelling, a bruise on my right leg, and that was about it. And I still have that sort of small swelling. And I remember going to do something with the choir, and I was just having pain. And the pain then meant I couldn't move sometimes. I would just sort of seize, like my body would sort of seize. And I just started feeling very tired all the time. So sometimes I did nothing, and this sort of extreme fatigue took me over. And one night when I really started to think about it, we went to sing, and I couldn't climb up the stairs to this choir loft at a hall in the city, Westminster Central Hall. And my choir members had to actually move me, sort of help lift me. And I was thinking, this is getting strange. Following that, I started to present with little like boils. So my skin would flare, and like you get like a cut or a pus, like something like pus is coming out, and my skin will start to sort of peel back, and it will heal, but I couldn't. If I tried to put anything on it, it would be irritating. So I remember I started getting these little lesions, as it were. I call them the boils of Job, and they would be there. And I remember a gentleman said to me at a particular event, you need to go and check them because there could be something going on with your blood. I was like, okay. And so that started to happen, and then I started to get the odd rash on my face. And of course, I started, the doctor said I didn't get sick. And what then started to happen, I would just black out. So I think the fall happened around 1997. Symptoms started around the end of that year, and different things were happening over a 2-year period. 1999, I traveled overseas. We were in Australia, and I just feeling lethargic all the time, lethargic. I get up fine in the morning, go and walk, or choir was touring, I'm feeling fine. Everybody's in the sea, I'm on the coach sleeping. And my friend kept saying to me, in the Caribbean, we have a term called dropsy. Yeah. So he's like, you have dropsy, what is wrong with you? I was like, I don't know, I'm just tired. And my blood pressure was playing up, going very low. So my friend was an excellent nurse, and she said, you really need to keep checking this thing because you're getting all of these odd symptoms. And my doctor kept doing tests, nothing. They can't see anything strange. And at one time I knew I had collapsed at work, and they weren't sure if there was a smell of gas or something. All these little things are happening and you don't know. But they kept doing tests. And I think near the end of 99, near the end of 99, a very good friend of mine who is a doctor too, and he kept saying, you're having all of these weird symptoms. And I keep thinking it could be chronic fatigue. He said, it's something autoimmune, but I can't place my hand on it. And eventually he said to me, I think you have lupus. And I had heard about it. And he said, tell your doctor to do. And so I went to my GP and I said, look, another doctor has said. And he said, I agree with him because you don't get ill. You come to me for your blood pressure checks, your pap smears, and that's about it. I said, okay. So in between that time, I'm still having these odd symptoms. And I remember coming to the end of the year in 1999, I collapsed in the classroom. And the kids were all freaking out. And the doctor just said, you're not to move. You're not to go back. We need to sort this out. And by the February of 2000, after these 3 years, 2.5 years, they said, "You have lupus." I jumped for joy because I knew something was wrong and I just needed to know what. I had prayed that I didn't want diabetes because all I saw was having to put myself with needles that I don't do, even though I'm used to the needles now because they have to take bloods all the time. I have cancer in my family, so I started to rebuke that too. But yeah, they said you had lupus, and I didn't know what it was going to entail. I knew some of the symptoms already, so if that I have to go through that, okay, how am I going to manage? But at that point, it was just, okay, now I know what it is. So it was the pain, it was the skin presentations. And then when the diagnosis came, it's the fact that I have the two types. So I have the systemic and I have the discoid, which affects the hair, the skin, and that sort of thing.
Question 2. When was you diagnosed with lupus and how long did your diagnosis take? This is what they had to say.
I was diagnosed with lupus, it's been about 11 years now because my daughter is 21. So, my diagnosis was instant. As soon as I got rushed to hospital, that's when they done the test and saw that my kidneys were being affected, and straight away that's when they diagnosed me with lupus. So it was when I admitted myself to A&E basically, and that's when I got diagnosed with lupus.
So February 2000, the diagnosis came. I guess relatively speaking, you can say it took long. But then if you're not sure about something, and you, in between some of the dramatic bits of the symptoms, when you're not feeling very well, you are managing. Right, so you're starting to realize whatever it is that I have, I'm having very good days, and then I'm having very exhausting days. Where I can't seem to function as I would normally. And my focus was just to stay well enough to be with my kids in the classroom, and whatever happens on the weekend, you know. And then I had to start managing how I would balance my weekend because a lot of the weekends I'm out with the choir, singing or even taking the kids around doing stuff. So yeah, it was starting to balance that. So it took a while, but when you think back about it, you were just sort of glad when you did know what it was, that sort of thing. You just wanted to know, what is it? What am I dealing with? And then once I knew, because half of my family is in the health profession, I got a box of information from America, like, this is what you have, research. So, yeah.
So it took about 18 months because, like I said, the doctor was just brushing me off. And then when I eventually got diagnosed, it was actually by a dermatologist, but he was a black man, so he kind of knew what was going on. And he said to me, I just need one test and then we'll know what's going on with you. And it did happen. That was 2012. So I was basically 18, just turned 18.
I would say around 7 years. That's what I said, because I was always in A&E. And A&E, you're talking about 13, 14 hours. Right. And one particular doctor, consultant, I went in the fourth time for a month. And she said, she looked at me and said, "Oh, you again?" And she said, "You are very ill. I don't know what it is." And she said what she will put a note on my file to say release me to her clinic. Now her clinic was a chest clinic and I have nothing to do. My chest was fine. But she said, I just want you to come because if you don't, you get lost in the system and you get worse and stuff. And just come, let me know you're here, and that's it. So she said she will write to all the consultants because I was seeing like 6 different consultants, but in a few hospitals, about 5 hospitals. And she said, I'm going to write to them and let them check you and see what it is going on. And she did that. And after 2 weeks, one of the hematologists, he tested for about 15 vials, of blood. And he called me and said, I need you to come and see me. He said, I know what is wrong, but I can't tell you because it's not my area. So he referred me to the rheumatologist. And that's when she told me. Yeah. But they said I have been about 7 years before. They didn't want to give me the wrong because they thought it was diabetes, they thought it was ME, all sort of things. So many different things they thought it was. And they didn't want to give me medication for something they're not sure. So yeah.
Do you remember what year that they diagnosed you?
2004.
2004.
March 2004, yeah.
So I was diagnosed in 1999. I was like 13 years old, and it took probably about a year for me to get diagnosed. At the beginning, the rashes on my legs, nobody knew if it was like a form of eczema, if I was allergic to something. So I gave up dairy for a year, thinking that I might be allergic to dairy. It's only when I had the rash on my face that looked like the butterfly wolf rash, and I started to have a little bit of problems with my joints and not being able to kind of get out of bed, is when they then did the biopsy. So they took a piece of the skin from my cheek to test it. And then at that time, that's when they started to suspect that it was lupus. And that's when they diagnosed me after the biopsy.